Okay, it is 6:45. I'll call the budget meeting to order. At this time, I will introduce Jim Babel, our district superintendent.
Thank you. The budget meeting has been properly noticed. I would like to start off by congratulating the entire district's business office for the work that they put into this budget hearing and the budget itself. It is a process that is year-round, and it will begin anew tomorrow morning as well. The school board has had an opportunity to review a preliminary budget at a prior meeting. I would like to, at this time, recognize Kirk Timlin, who serves as our school board treasurer, and also to recognize Dimitri Andrews, who is our business administrator. You'd like to say a couple of things, and then I'll have the video ready to go, Dimitri?
Sure. So the budget hearing is recorded, started doing that last year. It just comes out a lot clearer if I'm able to practice it and prepare it and not say a lot of ums and ahs in between the important information. So get to listen to me for about 7 minutes for the budget hearing.
This is the 22-23 budget hearing presentation. I will be starting on page 11 of the annual meeting booklet. This presentation is recorded so that information can be delivered clearly, but there will be an opportunity for live questions at the end of the in-person budget hearing. The budget process for this current year begins in the winter and spring of last year. Wages and benefits are typically set prior to the new fiscal year, which starts on July 1st each year. This year, we are in the second year of a state biennial budget. The state budget did not include a dollar amount or per pupil increase. However, our district is receiving one-time use federal ESSER funds. Starting on page 11 of the annual meeting booklet, some highlights over last year are the tax levy mill rate decreasing from $8.05 to now $7.62, equalized state aid increasing 4.1%, and general fund 10 expenses decreasing 0.6%. Some staffing changes are an additional middle school guidance counselor, middle school STEM teacher, additional first grade teacher, additional special education assistants, and increasing the total speech teachers in the district by 0.5 FTE. For maintenance and building and grounds, some energy efficient lighting upgrades in various locations, and upgrading portions of our roof at the middle and high school. At the bottom of page 11 is the proposed property tax calculation table. It first shows revenues and expenses equaling $20,814,583.03, which is a balanced budget. Down lower, the table shows the total district property tax amount increasing from $8 million last year to $8.6 million this year, which is a 6.9% increase in the total tax levy amount. However, the district's equalized property value is increasing 13%. The more property value there is, the more the total tax levy is spread out. This results in the total mill rate going from $8.05 to the $7.62 this year, which is a 43-cent decrease. There's also funding outside of the revenue limit, which includes the federal and state grants and programs, and that includes the federal ESSER funds. Page 12 includes the revenue limit formula for this year, which does show an increase of the revenue limit increasing 1.97% compared to last year. Page 13 includes our mill rate history over the past 7 years. As you can see, our mill rate has stayed steady, but this year does include a decrease due to an increase in state aid as well as higher equalized property values. There's also a comparison of last year's mill rate for area schools. We do not have enough information on the other schools' mill rates for this year, so this data is 1 year behind. Page 14 starts with a line graph of how our equalized property value has increased every year over the past several years. This year is the largest increase in several years. The bottom of page 14 has our fund balance as of June 30th of each school year. Our strong fund balance gives the district better bond ratings for borrowing, helps the district avoid large short-term borrowing, and it can be used to strategically plan for the future. Page 15 has district demographics and enrollment information. Enrollment or student membership is based on a full-time equivalency or FTE of students. All schools take an official membership count on the third Friday in September. This is a snapshot of student membership on that day. The revenue limit formula uses a 3-year average of membership. Our 3-year FTE membership average increased 25 students compared to last year. There's also a comparison of other area districts showing that Platteville has the largest student membership in Southwest Wisconsin. On page 16, there's a circle graph of where the majority of our general Fund 10 revenues come from. These percentages look a little different for each school district in Wisconsin. We currently receive 51% of our revenue from state aid and 28% from property taxes. Also on page 16, our Fund 80 Community Service Fund. This is a special fund for community services within our schools, which includes a weekend custodian, our community resource officer, and a crossing guard. The total levy for this year in Fund 80 is $60,000, and it's less than last year because there's a fund balance available to spend on. Pages 17 through 21 has our official budget adoption information. Our major funds list revenues first and expenses second. It starts with Fund 10, which is our general fund where the majority of school district business takes place. It follows with information on our special project funds, Fund 21, our special education fund, which is Fund 27, our debt service funds, Fund 38 and 39. We currently don't have any capital project funds being in use. Our food service fund, Fund 50, and lastly, our community service fund, Fund 80. Page 22 and 23 has our up-to-date debt tables. The first table is from the 2015-16 referendum, which was to improve our facilities, and the second table is from borrowing for previous pension bonds. The rest of the annual meeting document has financial terms that are described in this booklet. This concludes the recorded portion of the 22-23 budget hearing. Thank you for attending, and thank you for supporting our district mission to ensure high levels of learning for all in a safe, inclusive learning community, every student, every day. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience about the budget hearing? Thank you.
Hearing no questions from the audience, this meeting will be adjourned. This budget hearing is adjourned at 6:53 p.m.
It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
At this time, I'd like to announce that Elena Barth, Senior Extraordinaire, FFA student, has been appointed to serve as the parliamentarian for this meeting. Any chance we can get you to come back next year too?
That depends.
All right, we'll see. The annual meeting is to be chaired by an elected member of the community, and at this time, I will ask for any nominations of who we can have to chair this meeting.
I'll nominate Dr. Joe Jacqueline.
I have a motion by Kurt and a second by Matt to nominate Dr. Joe Jacqueline to nominate this meeting. Now we'll need we'll move that nominations, or somebody needs to move that nominations are closed, and that a unanimous ballot be cast for Dr. Joe. Need a motion in a second. Motion by Jen, second by Ben to close the nominations. At this time, I'll call it to question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Dr. Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight. Recognize some faces here. It's kind of nice to see. I'd like to start by saying that I have 3 kids in the Platteville school system. My oldest child, Maddie, had to be held back in kindergarten. This was a very difficult process for our family. We were very new parents at this time, and we wondered if we did something wrong. Would we or she be judged during this process? And how are we at this point so early in our education? My parents didn't want her held back because I was in a similar position when I was her age. And there was a lot of confliction between our sides of the family, both my wife's and myself. This was our introduction to the district. I can only say that I never once felt judged by Platteville. They simply laid out the pros and cons for each pathway and told us they'd support our decision either way. My wife and I, 10 years later, still talk about that conversation we had at the school district and how well they handled it. And I think in hindsight, we probably got that decision right. My middle child has also needed special attention. Jake needed speech therapy for 2 or 3 years early on in the school system. A lot of extra hours either before or after school. I don't even remember now, but his speech today is now great. Today, Jake is actually taking sophomore level math courses as an 8th grader. The school actually has to call us in every few months for a meeting to keep us informed on how they're going to challenge Jake in the future. I realize that this is a lot of resources poured into one kid, and I've often felt guilty about this. But I've also come to realize that Platteville will do this for any student, whether you're a student that's academically gifted or you're a kid that needs a bit more help to stay on course. And our family just can't be more thankful for that. My 3rd child is almost 7, is in 1st grade, and I have a very strong feeling that probably every teacher at Westview knows who Bodie is, and probably half the teachers at the middle school as well. It's going to take a village with this kid. He's got a really powerful battery that just doesn't slow. And in life, I firmly believe your greatest strengths are also your biggest weaknesses. Bodie can be exhausting and overwhelming at times, but I just didn't know what to do with a kid like this. I sent him to Platteville, and somehow, some way, Mrs. Volkening and Mrs. Gaffney have shown the greatest patience and taught this kid how to read, write, and excel at math. I'm sure every day was not easy for these teachers. What I'm trying to say is that I have kids all over the map, and they're all very, very different. They've all needed special attention in some way. And I also notice when I sit down and they show me their test scores that there's a district score and a state score. District scores are always higher than the state scores. And I'm not convinced that people here are just intrinsically better or smarter. I just feel like people are products in their environment. And I just want to thank the Platteville teachers for that and for all you do. Okay, so I'm supposed to remind the audience that only school district residents are eligible to vote, and should there be a non-resident in the audience, they should refrain from voting. We can decide by a voice, by a show of hands, or a paper ballot. A voice is generally the fastest, but it can become a little unreliable if it's closely contested. Do I have a motion at all? I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I can record it.
Okay.
You bet. No
Okay.
problem. Yep, I got it.
Is there a second?
Give me a second.
Okay, so all those in favor for a voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda has been publicly noticed as it appears on page 4 of the annual meeting document. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as printed?
Yep, motion in a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to introduce Matt Zielinski, School Board Clerk, to present the minutes of the October 27th, 2021 annual meeting.
The minutes of the October 27, 2021 budget hearing and annual school board meeting have already been approved by the Board of Education, so no further action is required. For your information, last year's minutes are printed on pages 6 through 8 in this year's annual meeting report.
I'd also like to introduce Kurt Timlin. There's Kurt over there. School Board Treasurer, to present the 2021-2022 Treasurer's Report.
The treasurer's report is printed on page 9. These figures represent the unaudited cost for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. I move that the treasurer's report for 2021-2022 be approved as printed.
Has there been a second for that?
Got it. Yep, motion in a second.
Motion carries.
Oh, we can-
Oops.
That's okay. You're good.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to introduce Jim Bobo, District Superintendent, who will review the statutory requirements associated with adopting a budget and setting the tax levy.
Thank you. In accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 120.12, the Board of Education has the authority and is obligated to adopt a budget and to set the tax levy on or before November 1st. That action will occur at the regular meeting of the school board later this evening on October 26th, 2022.
Be it resolved that there be levied a tax in the amount of $8,634,780 upon all taxable property in the Platteville School District for the purpose of paying salaries, meeting necessary expenses to operate and maintain the district schools, and financing the debt service of said district on the basis of the budget approved by this body for the 2022 and 2023 school year.
So, you second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, back to Jim Bobo again, who will explain the requirements for setting the annual meeting date. The superintendent will seek a motion and second to authorize.
Sure, I'm supposed to read that.
Okay.
State Statute 120.08 requires that we conduct an annual school district meeting between May 15th and October 31st. And I recommend that you authorize the Board of Education to set the date of the 2023 annual meeting for October 25, 2023. If we have a motion and a second to that effect.
All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to introduce Matt Zelinski again, who will read the recommendations of the school board contained on page 24 of the annual meeting document and make a motion for their approval.
The school board makes the following recommendations. The district shall furnish textbooks for student use. School lunches shall be offered for the pupils of the school district. The school board is authorized to contract for student transportation. Actual expenses shall be paid for school board members while on school business. I move that the recommendations of the Board of Education be approved as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, the business of the annual meeting has been completed and we'll seek a motion and a second to adjourn.
Get the motion in a second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Appropriate or?
It is 7:15. I'll call the regular school board meeting to order. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
At this time, we have an item on the consent agenda.
Within the consent agenda are the minutes of our previous meeting on October 12th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt. Second by Jessica to approve the consent agenda item as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. On to an adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion and a second on that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betsy. Second by Matt to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Action items, original budget.
Item 4A is the original budget. We have been through the annual budget hearing and the annual meeting. That budget is as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Ben to approve the 2022-2023 budget as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. On to, let me get the right item here, the tax levy certification.
Item 4B, the 22-23 tax levy certification. The total tax levy is $8,634,780. Please note, as we have mentioned in previous board meetings, that is a number, and depending on the result of the referendum vote, it will either be that tax levy will include the referendum, or it will include some defeasance, but the levy is the same.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Ben, to certify the 2022-23 Platteville School District total tax levy at $8,634,780. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Short-term borrowing resolution.
This is an annual event for us to approve the business office to short-term borrow. There is usually in November to December, maybe another time of year, where it deals with a lot of the state funding is one gear that starts January 1st. The school's gear will start on July 1st, and there are times where the funding isn't coming in on a regular basis. And this gives us an opportunity to make sure we meet payroll.
So moved. Second.
Actually, I got a motion by Betsy and a second by Ben to authorize the Platteville School District to borrow an amount not to exceed $1 million for up to 9 months for the purpose of cash flow to cover operational expenses for the 2022-23 school year. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Ben to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned at